Welcome to It's Open with Ilana Glazer. Hi. Thank you for joining me and us today. I had such a great conversation with Dr. Ayana Elizabeth Johnson that I'm very excited to share with you. She is the author of What If We Get It Right? Ooh, and she's talking about the earth, baby. She is a marine biologist and the leading voice in culture on climate solutions. I couldn't help but ask her, Dr. Johnson, are we fucked? And the answer may surprise you. Come on in. It's open. Ayana, thank you for joining me today.
My absolute pleasure.
We've been friends for a while now, maybe 5 or 6 years from the neighborhood in Brooklyn, where you grew up, but you have since moved to Maine.
Yeah, feel great about that.
Holy moly.
I'm actually trying to write an essay about that for a magazine, just like, because part of the reason is climate change. Like, where do you want to be? Where feels safe? Where do you want to build community? Like, where do you want to put down roots? Like, knowing everything that I know. And like, for people who do have the freedom of choice, which is not very many, sadly, like, what are some good places to be? Like, how do we even think about that when the past is like no longer the perfect proxy for the future? Ooh. Sorry, I just went straight in on
thrilled.
you.
When the past, let me just catch up. When the past is no longer the perfect proxy for the future, which I suppose within our entire lifetimes has been a lie narrative, right?
Well, everything's changing so quickly, right? Like, when I grew up in Brooklyn, we had snow days in a different way, right? We had to wear turtlenecks under our Halloween costumes and coats over them. We were always arguing with our moms about like how many layers we had to wear because it was ruining our costume. And now it's like 70 degrees on Halloween, right? It's just a totally different climate. Literally, we're in this different phase of life on Earth, hotter than it's ever been in human history, and all this extreme weather. And so the question is like, well, we can't just assume that everything's going to be the same and we can just like putter along. Something's got to give, right? We have to shift. We have to adapt our lives to the world as it now is. And I feel like most people are a little slow jumping on that.
I think of you as someone who has done life-saving, planet-saving work for so many years. I had perhaps like fantasized about this move as like she's doing it for herself, taking back the earth for herself.
Also, yes.
Yeah, cool.
I just need to have green out of every window. And, Maine's got the ocean and the mountains and the forests and all these practical humans with real world skills. And I just thought, I think this is a good place to be.
Totally.
Yeah.
How's it feel? You lived in New York City your whole life. Is that right?
Through high school, and then left and lived around the Caribbean and California and DC and Boston, and came back. And then we met, and I was like, well, I've met the last person I needed to meet in New York. Let me just bounce.
Wow.
And my mom and I moved in together, and she brought her chickens. So we've got a little kind of homestead thing going on.
What's the community like where you live in Maine?
It's so funny because the primary thing I think about is that the whole state is a community. Like, there are twice as many people in the borough of Brooklyn as there are in the entire state of Maine.
Wow.
So the whole state is kind of like one town in a way, right?
Does it feel that way if you drive from one spot to a whole other spot?
I mean, there's a lot of diversity across the state in ecosystems, in industries that are present, right? But it's everyone's like 1 degree of separation or 2 at the max. So there's an intimacy there that's really sweet, and also an accountability. Like, you gotta like not be a jerk.
Wow.
Because everyone will know.
Wow.
And Maine is, I think this is true, maybe the first state that's been like really pumping the brakes on data centers. Ooh. Until we have a plan for where all this electricity is going to come from. Maine has high electric bills already, and people are really concerned. And that's actually been one of the most exciting new sort of social activist
Yes.
things to watch because it came out of nowhere, and it could so easily have been like we all just sleepwalk into this AI era, and people were like, actually, we're not super down with these huge data centers in our communities using all our electricity, polluting the air as they like fire up gas turbines and using all of our drinking water
while taking away our jobs.
Pause on this.
Yep.
And so a bunch of states are doing that now. But Maine's, charging ahead on all sorts of creative legislation. Just passed a bill for plug-in solar, so people can like plug in solar panels at their house and not have to go through like crazy permitting stuff. Just really practical approach, I think, to like what makes sense in terms of policy.
The practical minutia is what gets me so excited. That is what I'm loving about Mayor Zohran Mamdani's track record so far. The minutia, the 4-foot shoveled sidewalks,
the pothole filling.
The pothole filling.
It's been a bummer for a lot of us that he hasn't really talked about climate that much. Like pushing for public transit, obviously great climate solution. We love bikes, we love buses, subways, all of that. Like that's great. But he's talked about it all through the lens of affordability and not so much about like also this is good for the earth, which is good for the humans. And the most vulnerable ones are the ones who get screwed the most by climate change. So, and his track record is one of like very strong advocacy for climate, but in this political moment, he has just chosen not to emphasize that or talk about it. And it's part of this like trend of green hushing that we're seeing. It used to be like green washing, like companies pretending to do all this good stuff that they was like nonsense. And now it's like people aren't even talking about it at all, which is a problem because the majority of Americans are like super concerned and would like to see politicians do more. But there's always a question of like, how do you win versus how do you govern? Fundamentally, just get it done, right? Like, do the work. The question is like, how do we build momentum from place to place? Also, it is an affordability issue because solar is cheaper than oil and gas. In most scenarios now, like the economics of it makes sense. Like we need more solar and energy and storage, battery storage to go with it, right? Like that's the future. And wind and geothermal, right? There's all these other options, but like that's the economics pan out for that, right? It's like Texas and Iowa have the highest rates of wind, and Texas has like the highest solar, like along with California.
Oh my God.
It's not because they're like a bunch of hippies, it's because it's making them money and it makes financial sense. So there's this false assumption that like to do the pro-earth thing is to sacrifice profitability or affordability. But it's just not true. Like it's just straight up not true, especially in the crisis we're in now, the war in Iran, where prices are going through the roof and everyone who has an EV is like, great, right?
I just want to like really understand. You're saying what I'm hearing first is that the messaging like makes what we're doing in New York City scalable, but also you're just like represent. Is that really the vibe? Like, hello, I'm not hearing anything about this.
Yeah, I mean, there's also this big question mark about whether New York City right now is going to go back on its promise as a state. New York is going to go back on its promise to decarbonize, right? To shift to renewable energy, and like I haven't heard Mayor Mamdani say anything about like, no, we need to stick to this.
Got it.
And I get that he's like building an alliance with the governor and like, I'm sure there's a lot of strategy going on around it.
Yep.
But like, we got to keep plowing ahead on our climate goals instead of just letting them fall by the wayside without even a public conversation.
Right. I see.
Happening about that. There is actually urgency. And I think to take a step back, I feel like the one thing I want people to understand about climate change is we have the solutions we need. Like we know how to transition to clean energy.
Yep.
We know how to do public transit and, electrify our transit. We know how to do green buildings. We know how to improve our agriculture. We know how to protect and restore ecosystems. It's not like we need to wait for magic or fusion or whatever, right? We could just do it. And it truly is this challenge of political will, just not being there, and having like an entire political party in this country that's like climate denial as a core policy and drill baby drill in their literal GOP platform. And the other piece of it is your fault. It's your people. It's the culture part. Like we just don't have enough people talking about the challenge, but also specifically the solutions and helping people see that making those solutions happen in the world like leads to a better world for all of us. Like who doesn't want cleaner air and cleaner water and like green jobs and all the good stuff that comes with addressing this head on? And so in this like midterm election moment, I'm like, vote for people who get it on climate, please. Like pick a campaign and help win it, right? Up and down the ballot, like school board, who's approving like, do kids get to learn about climate in school? And your city council deciding whether to invest in municipal composting and bike lanes and all that stuff. It all is super important. All these people with cultural influence are not talking about it. They're not talking about climate. They're just not. I mean, a few people here and there, but like it's not in movies. We have the apocalyptic versions of the future. We don't have.
That's right. That's right.
As is my greatest wish, the rom-com with the hot shirtless solar installer, right? It's almost like you could miss it. It's as if it's not happening because it's not reflected in like the cultural products that are reaching the most people.
Yes, because also TV and film has taken such a sharp right turn into fascist propaganda in so many cases.
I was just watching Landman. Have you seen this? By the same people who did Yellowstone. And it's just like about the oil and gas industry and sort of like how amazing they are. And how much they've done for our country.
I thought you were saying the opposite.
No. And there's like this scene with this environmentalist who's like a total dork who like has nothing to say as he's like, well, oil is the way and like all this stuff. And it's just
that is scary.
It's really scary because all the representations of environmentalists we have in film and TV, they're usually like annoying nerds. Like you don't want to invite to a party. And I'm like, can someone please be a cool environmentalist on the television, please?
Is it up to you and you alone?
I mean, I'm hosting dance parties in aquariums around the country as my book tour, right?
Wow.
Because read the book when you get around to it. But like for now, I want you to meet other people in your community who care.
Right.
Like maybe meet your new climate bestie on the dance floor. I don't know.
Hi, jumping in here to bring you a little ad as well as a sick discount. So stay tuned. Okay, y'all. These are the Psy Sandals 50 in cream from Stuart Weitzman's new collection. Okay. And oh God, they're just gorgeous. I'm a working mom and I am pulled in so many different directions every day. But when I put on a pair of Stuart Weitzman shoes, I feel pulled together. Stuart Weitzman shoes are sophisticated, timeless, high quality, and comfortable. They're a legacy New York brand, so you know that they design their shoes with walking women in mind. I could push a stroller in these Psy Slide sandals. I could keep up with a scooter in these Psy Slide sandals. I wear Stuart Weitzman shoes all the time, for real, and now I will be adding the Psy Slide 50 sandals in cream to my closet. If you want to add the Psy Slide 50 sandal in cream to your closet for 20% off, I have a discount for you. If you want to add any Stuart Weitzman shoes from their website to your closet for 20% off, I have a discount for you. And I even made an Ilana and Stuart Weitzman edit so you can check out some of my faves. So text Ilana, ILANA, to 60692 for 20% off anything from Stuart Weitzman's website, new line, or an Ilana Stewart edit that I curated for you. 20% off. Like, that is sick, dude. Okay, yes, the subject to terms and conditions, yeah, of course they may apply. Message and data rates may apply. All right, but 20% off the shoes. So, listen, enjoy your discount. And now we're going to go back to the show. Enjoy the rest of It's Open with Ilana Glazer. Thank goodness springtime is here. I was losing it, dog. But I'm so happy it's here because when I put my boots back on the shelf, I put on Bombas footwear. Check this out. Oh yeah, it's time for springtime and summer, baby. This is waterproof. This is lightweight. I could toss it. Here's another product. I could toss it in my bag. I could toss them on, walk outside, take a shower at the gym. You know what I'm talking about? Not to brag that I go to the gym. And I'm just loving it. This is Bombas footwear. I thought they just made socks. No, they make footwear too. You know what I also didn't realize they make? Underwear and t-shirts. I'm wearing it right now. It's breathable. It's soft. It's feeling good on my body. Oh, check this out. Yeah, that's nice. It just feels good. I'm loving it. And something I did not know about Bombas is that for every item you purchase, an essential clothing item is donated to someone facing housing insecurity. One purchased, one donated, with over 150 million donations and counting. Whew, these are high quality products. And to think that I'm buying something and someone who needs this is receiving it as well makes me feel good. So head over to bombas.com/Ilana and use the code Ilana to get 20% off your first purchase. So Bombas is bombas.com/Ilana, ILANA, and then use the code Ilana, ILANA, to get 20% off. See you later. So let's talk about your book. What if we get it right?
Visions of Climate Futures.
This is your second book, but the first you've penned all your own. Is that right?
Yeah. So All We Can Save, when we met, that came out because I randomly DM'd you on Instagram and was like, hey, could you read some essays for this audio book?
That was such a good experience. I loved it so much. And the book is so good and it aches with beauty and hope.
Yeah.
What if we get it right about?
It is that simple question of what kind of future do we want to live in and how do we get there? And I came up with this question and then I was so intimidated by the enormity of the question. I was like, and then I avoided writing the book for 2 years and then realized the answer was phone a friend. I know all these amazing people across agriculture and environmental law and finance and technology and policy and community organizing. And I should just ask them what they think. And so the book, the heart of it is 20 interviews with all these experts that are abridged, transcribed. And so it's very conversational. Nice. So it's a thick one, but it's a quick read because it's
thick but quick.
We like
chatty. Rolling Stone calls it the most helpful book on the planet right now for dreamers, doers, and anyone concerned with Earth's rising temperatures.
That should be most people, I would say.
That is probably most people. So, Dr. Ayana Elizabeth Johnson.
Yes, ma'am.
We fucked?
This is a question I get a lot. And the answer is it depends what we do.
Yep.
Right? Because we have the climate solutions we need, essentially. Okay. Are we going to do them or not? And how quickly are we going to implement them? And how justly are we going to implement them? That's going to decide what kind of world we get.
What is the most exciting solution? Talking about digging into minutia and loving it as a fucking nerd. What's one solution you love?
I'm could we protect and restore wetlands?
Talk about it.
They absorb 3 to 5 times more carbon per acre than a tropical forest. They're protecting our shorelines. They are habitat for so many other species. And they can actually grow in some cases to keep up with rising sea levels.
How do you do
They're
it?
Dope. You just protect them and you can restore them, replant. So, but there's 15% of the original wetlands that are still intact in the New York area. And that bit that was left prevented over $600 million in damage. So it really matters that we do that we protect and restore those ecosystems. And yes, I love solar panels and electric cars and networked geothermal. I'm not anti-technology. Those solutions are incredibly valuable. And we need to build more transmission lines and battery storage and all of it, right? But nature is a huge part of the solution, and we often forget that. And our food system as well. Reducing food waste is a huge climate solution. Eating a plant-based diet, these are in the top 10, if we shift culture, society.
I just want to kind of capture and hold 1 second, some things you've already said, which is that we have the solutions that we need. It's just a matter of a timeline and fighting bad people, essentially, who are in positions of power. But also I'm hearing jobs and profitability.
I just really want people to understand that we basically have the climate solutions we need and that they are affordable, right? Solar is cheaper than oil. right? Like we could just have solar panels capturing photons, powering our lives, storing that in batteries overnight, right?
Right now.
We have all these, there's more jobs in renewable energy than in coal, for sure, right? There is this opportunity to shift to an economy based on renewable energy. And the transition is happening. Like most of the new electricity that's been brought onto the grid in the last few years is renewable in terms of like newly added sources of electricity. So that's the direction we're going in. It's just a question of like how much is the fossil fuel lobby and all the politicians in their pocket going to slow us down? So it's like a question of speed and who's going to benefit from it, right?
President Joseph R. Biden was, on paper, the most progressive climate president in our history. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, the Inflation Reduction Act that he championed was the largest investment in clean energy, in climate solutions, not just in American history, but in world history. Wow. Like hundreds of billions of dollars going into clean energy, all of these tax credits for people to install heat pumps and like reduce draftiness of their homes, to insulate their attics, get more efficient windows, et cetera. And the Republican Congress came in with Trump and just like canceled all of that early, right? We had started the American Climate Corps. Like,
please talk about
putting young people to work on climate solutions across the country.
Starting at $90,000 a year.
Is that true?
Yep.
Okay. Shout out to Maggie Thomas for making that happen.
Love you, Maggie.
You know, doing that work of restoring wetlands, of managing wildfire risk, of helping people put solar panels on community centers, right? Like the kinds of stuff that our taxpayer dollars should be supporting, that kind of a program, right? And you're training the next generation of leaders with like practical problem solving, like building our future world opportunities. And so to see all of that get rolled back in the last year has been infuriating and heartbreaking because like we had all this momentum, right? And it's been a major, major setback. And of course, losing thousands of PhD scientists across the federal government who had all the knowledge of detailed information and like decades of research to help inform our policy making, right?
Literally sick here. I'm literally like getting sick. Hearing about it, I'm like nauseous and having like whatever esophageal burning
reflux.
It's so.
So when I was updating
insane.
this book for the paperback edition, I had to add all these footnotes that were like the most depressing set of edits you could possibly have to make. I'm like, well, this program doesn't exist anymore. This funding doesn't exist anymore. Like the Supreme Court just decided this shitty thing.
Jesus Christ.
These statistics are updated in the wrong direction. But it still remains true that we have the solutions we need. And that so much can get done at a local level.
And I am annoyingly, persistently optimistic, but I have to say, if we had that blueprint there and the scientists exist, they weren't eliminated from existence. As soon as we get the power back, we can re-implement these things. I know it's like so dumb and like Pollyanna to say,
no,
but
it's
I'm like,
not dumb. So
it was
I
just
like
right there. It was right the fuck
re-interviewed
there.
Abby Dillon. Abby runs Earth Justice that like sues the federal government for violating its own environmental laws, basically.
Oh my God.
Like the Clean Air Act. No, we actually have a right to clean air, you guys. You got to enforce this, et cetera. And so they, in addition to suing this administration, are doing what's called Project Phoenix, which is, you know, the mythical bird rising from the ashes. Ooh. If they're going to burn it all down, what are we going to rebuild? And so this is absolutely a time for that kind of imagining, right? If we are being forced into a bit of a blank slate, like let's be creative about the kinds of policies, laws, regulations, societal structures that would help us get to where we need to go. And a lot of organizations are in this, you know, doing the split between like the defensive work of like hold the line as much as we can and like planning for the next window of opportunity to open or to, you know, force it open. Because there are some things people agree on, like across the political spectrum. People want clean water. and they don't want a lot of data centers in their communities, right?
Yep.
And they want the green jobs, no matter who they vote for. They want those good jobs in their communities. So there's a lot of opportunities still to move things forward, and we got to just like find that possibility.
When you say across the political spectrum, I think politicians, and then I'm like, no, you mean the people. No, the people,
the voters
want mostly the same thing, I think. No?
I
Talk to me.
wouldn't go quite that far. I mean, there's like a serious drill baby drill contingent
Of
the
voters?
Republican Party. Yeah.
Of
It's
Republican
almost
voters,
like
but
an
they don't
own the
see this-
libs backlash kind of thing.
It's
Like
just a violent thing.
making fun of people for caring about the future of life on Earth, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's like, it's very gendered too.
Right.
Men, like polling shows, are just like far less concerned about climate. There's a whole like Petro-Masculinity, like big car, least fuel efficient car. Trucks you're never going to actually put anything in the bed of. I learned this from Liz Plank's book called For the Love of Men. There's a study on just men are less likely to want to carry a reusable bag for their groceries because it's like, and I'm just like, how are we going to get anything done if it's like emasculating to carry a canvas bag?
This thing of petro-masculinity. So for them, it's like the more destructive they are using fossil fuels that we know are bad for the earth, the more masculine they feel.
Yeah, it's like
So silly.
how big a steak can you eat is like in the same kind of zone of thinking, right? That like that's the manly thing. But all of this is culture, right?
Right.
Like who are the people telling us what's cool and what's aspirational, right? We've got a world of influencers who are leading us in exactly the wrong direction, right? Towards consumerism and just like high impact lifestyles. Huge houses, huge wardrobes, so many cars, so much stuff, right?
Right.
No regard for like the impact of that and the impact of inspiring other people to aspire to that.
I think, we're watching the patriarchy melt. We're watching it unravel. And I do think we're birthing a new world, no matter how gruesome it is. But it's what the author and thought leader Bell Hooks called the white supremacist, imperialist, misogynist, racist, capitalist patriarchy. She would name all the things to show how many systems are really this one system. And there's, I think, or at least in my world, I'm feeling women rise up and femmes rise up to see that like what is not working. And women do have the solutions. Women are the ones, as you're saying, per Liz Plank's book, who care the most about
There's
protecting
tons
the
of
earth.
polling on this. I mean, Yale Center for Climate Communication, George Mason have been doing polling for years, and like women just are more concerned about the future of this planet, how livable it is, which is bizarre because we all live here. But I feel like we need everyone. So it's not like dudes out of the way, women got this. It's like, come on. Everyone come in, like find where you fit in. And like, we need 1 million more electricians in this country to make the clean energy transition, which is a great paying job and definitely masculine coded.
Yep.
Right? So like, come on.
Yep.
Like, welcome. Let's do this.
Yeah. How have you seen the role of women in climate science change over the course of your career?
In climate science, there's so many incredible women climate scientists.
You know, like when I started commenting, it's like, you're the girl on the lineup. You're the girl in the improv group. Were you the girl in the room when you were studying climate science, or was it?
I was studying, so my PhD is in marine biology, obviously the ocean, a very big part of our climate system. Yeah. A third of the solutions are found in the ocean. And that has had this generational shift where a lot of the professors are men, but a lot of the students and early career people are women. There's been sort of like a gender inflection. Like most science PhD worlds, very masculine. And now it's many more women up and down. Yeah,
That's exciting.
in that one.
What would you say to a young woman, or I'm sure you do talk to young women all the time in this space, but like, what do you say to young women when you are in a role to sort of advise or guide young women in climate justice and climate science?
Young women have been leading this era of the climate movement, right? People are familiar with Greta Thunberg, but there are so many. I mean, the majority of the people involved in youth climate work, it's girls, right? Like they are literally leading the way forward and shaking grown-ups and saying like, you better get on board with this. This is our future and you're setting it on fire. And that moral clarity that young people are bringing to this work is so critical, like holding older generations accountable and saying, you can't just look to us to solve this problem you created. Like we actually need you to engage deeply and be a part of the solutions with us. Like all generations have a role to play in making this transition. And so I think that's the first thing that young women, girls need to know is like, you guys have already been leading on this. So keep it up.
Obsessed.
Bring your friends.
How do you turn it off? Literally, what do you do in your day-to-day to be like, okay, I'm a human being in one body right now. I'm just a person on the planet. How do you rest?
Well, I'm not super great at that, but I'm working on it. I would say I just go outside. I mean, it's so simple. Just remembering that you are one human, part of one species. There are millions of species we're sharing this planet with. Like, how can we be a better neighbor to all the other life on this planet? It sounds a little bit woo-woo, but it's that it just feels like I want to be in an ecosystem.
Yeah.
I want to be part of the web of life, right? And not ruin the web, right? I don't want our generation to be responsible for tearing that apart, right? And so there's a lot of like mending and reweaving and reconnecting that I think is happening and we need more of. And it can be so beautiful.
Also for people to sign up to go to your dance parties.
Oh, come dance with me.
Is it getitright.earth? Mm-hmm. Okay, lit.
/tour.
Cool.
I mean, who doesn't want to dance next to the kelp tank with the otters at the Monterey Bay Aquarium?
Oh my God.
Like, obviously.
That's so fun.
This will be so fun.
Okay, Dr. Ayana Elizabeth Johnson, author of What If We Get It Right. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
And let's keep going together.
Let's get it done.
Thank you to my guest today, Dr. Ayana Elizabeth Johnson. Ayana wrote What If We Get It Right? And her website is getitright.earth. This has been a solely human-made production. This is also a Star Picks production. And I want to thank my creative producers, David Rooklin, Annika Carlson, Glennis, Kelsie, Kiley, and Madeline Kim. I want to thank the people who made this episode look and sound so good today, Nicole Maupin, Louise, Nessralla, and Kevin Deming. I want to thank our editor, Tova Leibowitz, who just cuts these episodes so good. I want to thank Ramo Ventura, who provided the beautiful graphics and opening musical sting, as well as Don Herr, who has created this beautiful outro music for the show. If you enjoy It's Open Pod, like and subscribe, because these are the little actions that make the difference in building the community. Thank you so much for joining us today, and see you next time.